Okay, we're live, but we're going to take just a couple seconds here and let it breathe, baby. Bring on Facebook and Instagram. Not a whole lot of news today, guys, but there's still plenty to talk about. We got mandatory minicamp starting tomorrow, and we're good. Welcome in, everybody. This is, of course, the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, and with me is my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, tomorrow things get a little bit more serious with mandatory minicamp. And by that, it's not just in how they kind of approach things on the field, a lot more intensive, but also, you get the full on each day you're getting pressers kind of thing, like reminiscent of pre Sean Payton training camps at Broncos HQ. You know what I'm saying? But how stoked are you for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday?
You hit the nail on the head. I'm excited that we'll have quotes to live on for the next 6 weeks, Chad, because we've only gotten them on Thursdays and OTAs the last couple of weeks. So the more availability they make the players and Sean Payton, the better for us and better for the fan base as well. We're going to take in every second we can from this week.
No doubt about it. What's on y'all's mind? What's up, Mike? Good to see you. First chat that we see anyway on our end in the chat tonight. First comment. David Youngkin, what's up? Finally got a loan to have my roof replaced. Congrats on that, big dog. We've got Dylan in the house helping us out on YouTube. Big Earn, Broncos country only. Yes, sir. I love it. And Sam Bam jumping in early with a super chat before we even went live because he is Mount Rushmore, baby. Great to see you, Sam. Thank you, buddy. He says, evening, Chad, Zach, and Scott in Broncos country. Was doing some fantasy football research today, and I'm thinking the Broncos defense is going to be number one on my rankings list for this year. Go Broncos. Well, it's kind of like Zach, Junior saying that Tony never had the makings of a varsity athlete. This defense has the makings of a number one unit. Now, there's still a lot of moving parts that have to come together, but what are your thoughts here for Sam?
Well, they led the league in sacks last year under Vance Joseph, and they got better on paper with the addition of Zade Barron, Hufanga, Greenlaw. They're a better defense than we last saw in Buffalo. So, Sam, logic would dictate that they could finish number one, at least in fantasy or in real life. If not, the expectation, Chad, for real life and fantasy has to be top three, considering all the talent they have there.
So you want to hear something that's going to make you scratch your head? This is neither here nor there, but Keith submitted an article about, and he had to transcribe some of the quotes that the new Broncos safety was giving to NFL Network. And so as a dutiful editor, I didn't just take what he wrote as the transcription as gospel. I listened to make sure he got it right and didn't miss something. Anyhow, I couldn't help but notice, Zach, in the lead up, these guys who were talking to him, like Sam Weish and other guys, like they've known Talanoa for a minute, pronounced his last name Hufanga, like a snake with fangs. Hufanga. So maybe that's how you say it, Zach.
Pronunciations will always be the bugaboo of this podcast, Chad. I've resigned myself to that. We're going to just call him whatever we think of in that moment. Hufanga, damn good football player.
Dude, if we could crack the Okuwebunam nut, yeah, we can get past anything now, dude.
Spelling it too. Still know it by muscle memory.
Same here. So many reps. Sam, dude, thank you, brother. And good luck on that. I think it's a fair bet. I think it's a safe, relatively solid bet. Broncos could finish number one. A lot of people saying it. Gene William, what's up, dude? Great to see you. Thank you for being with us on Facebook tonight, throwing down some stars. Much love and respect. He says, yo, guys, we've been waiting all day for your show. How are you? And everyone in the MHH community. Dude, doing really, really well. Cannot complain one bit. Excited tomorrow. We get some mandatory mini camp and whatnot. But, yeah, glad to hear it. The gang sounds like, Gene, the gang's all there, so to speak. It's cool.
Yeah, we're a day closer to the regular season. And like I said earlier, we're going to enjoy this 3-day mandatory minicamp this week, Gene, before the summer break. But it's going to be exciting.
See, the brace girdles have come together. I had a sneaking suspicion when he said, we've been waiting all day. Gene, Ralph jumping in saying, family gathering tonight. Got you up on the big screen. Awesome. Is J.K. Dobbins, going to be another Evan Ingram who leaves the visit and then comes back and signs? Or are the Paytons, right? Even though Sean Payton likes to kind of make fun of George Payton, that George Payton's name looks like it should say Patton. But are they going to be good, Zach? Peyton and Peyton with the running back room. Nick Chubb is officially off the board. We heard about that yesterday, and it was confirmed today by the Texans. So he says that might kind of force the hand. What do you think, Zach, for the brace girdles who's got us up on the big screen?
Yeah, we appreciate that, Ralph. I don't know that it's going to force the Broncos' hand so much as Dobbins' hand, because look at the contract Nick Chubb got from Houston, a 1 year, 2 point something million. It was worth up to five, though. So heavily incentivized, $5 million on a 1 year deal for one of the formerly best running backs in the NFL. That's about what Dobbins could expect. Now, I said yesterday, Chad, on the podcast, what are the reasons that they didn't sign him after the visit? Well, they either found something in the medical visit that they didn't like, the report, or he's asking for too much and the Broncos have their set price and they don't want to exceed it. So, Ralph, I feel like the longer it goes on without him putting pen to paper, that would seem to me Sean Payton likes the incumbent running backs. But like Chad said yesterday, I would not be surprised we wake up tomorrow and we find out Dobbins is a Bronco.
Each day that passes, slightly, the likelihood of it diminishes. If memory serves, and I can't recall it exactly, Zach, but Evan Ingram signing was like, no, if memory serves, I could be wrong on this, but it was like a 48-hour turnaround from
It was pretty
time he
cool.
visited and then he came. We've long surpassed that on Dobbins because his visit was Thursday. We're sitting here on Monday, but Friday they had a lot going on in terms of kind of finishing up, I'm sure, a lot of meetings, evaluating the coaches and whatnot, what they saw in voluntary minicamp, all that stuff. Today's probably the best, the real first kind of business day to turn the attention to something else. He hasn't been signed yet. I think they should, just as a fail-safe, even if you're going to pay him, $3 million a year or something like that. I think it's worth it to have that veteran experience. And the Texans, they're taking a chance a little bit on Nick Chubb, but if he's even remotely close to even the form he was in the year prior, that's going to end up being a huge benefit to CJ Stroud.
Remember, though, that Dobbins got into Denver last Wednesday night. He had dinner with the Broncos coaching staff and then saw the facility at Broncos Park the next day. So I kind of feel like, Chad, after the workout, the visit, the whining and dining, if they wanted to sign J.K. Dobbins, they would have signed J.K. Dobbins by now. But to push the goalposts further back a little more, after this week's mandatory minicamp, after they go through the evaluations, the film and all that, if next week they don't sign Dobbins, it's pretty clear that he's not that high up on the radar as he once seemed.
We will continue to break this down, guys, but really quick, listen up, all right? Summertime, Broncos country. Feels good, right? Make this your best season yet with nutritious 2-minute meals with Factor. My family lives on this stuff, and it's especially convenient in my case for lunchtime. Eating well has never been this easy. Just heat up and enjoy, giving you more time to do what you want. Get outside, guys, instead of prepping and cooking indoors. Factor meals arrive fresh and ready to eat, perfect for any active lifestyle. These aren't frozen TV dinners, so to speak. They're fresh ingredients, refrigerated, not frozen. With 45 weekly menu options, you can pick gourmet meals that fit your goals, whether that's picking from things like calorie smart options, protein plus, keto, and more.
Guys, Factor absolutely powers your day with satisfying breakfast, on the go lunches, premium dinners, and guilt free snacks and desserts. It's easy to savor more this summer. Factor meals pack in the flavor with none of the fuss. Get started at factormeals.com/milehigh50 off and use code milehigh50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code milehigh50 off at factormeals.com/milehigh50 off for 50% off plus free shipping.
Love Factor. Such a great partner on this podcast, and I love it even more when it's literally a product that we use and we love. So thank you to them. Yeah, Gene. T minus, he says 11 days till the family gets to meet you, Chad. Pretty sick. Can't wait. That's right. Hey, I'm making hay while it is the off season with my little passion project, Bridge the Gap. We'll be in Denver on the 20th. If that's something that interests you, just find Bridge the Gap social media. You'll see the tickets. But yeah, we are playing in Denver June 20th. Can't wait to meet you guys in the flesh. It's going to be awesome. We also have Albert, the Mile High Dutchie, saying, better believe that the Broncos will play in the playoffs after winning the AFC West. Yeah, man, that's the thing is, how much do you buy, Zach, that the Chiefs have peaked and that they're on a within the degrees to which it may be are up for debate, but on the downswing.
Man, I don't know. As long as Andy Reid's the coach, Mahomes is the quarterback, Travis Kelsey's the tight end, Chris Jones is the defensive tackle. I just feel like as long as that nucleus is in place, sadly to say, Chad, they're going to be contending for a Super Bowl each and every season. But I think they're more vulnerable now to be overtaken than at any point in the last 5 years. Again, I know I might sound homeristic, but the Broncos went into Arrowhead, Bo in the second half at least, out-dueled Patrick Mahomes, drove him down the field. The Broncos should have won that game. So you could see one might be stagnating, but the Broncos are definitely rising. It's at what point do those sides intersect, Chad?
I think Sean Payton has the Chiefs figured out in terms of head-to-head game planning and opponents and, weaknesses, this and that. But I'm just not sure yet. I'm confident, but I'm not certain yet how the Broncos are going to fare in those games that are not head-to-head. And by the time they meet each other for that Christmas game, Zach, like, what's it looking like? Is the division on the line? I expect it to be. I forget now what show Schlereth was on today. I saw it on Twitter. But Mark Schlereth, of course, famous radio personality, calls games for Fox Sports and a former Broncos two-time world champ, won 3 Super Bowls as a player. He says 10 to 11 wins. And if you got 10 to 11 wins, if you got 11 wins, man, that's a good season. That's an improvement, Zach, over what the Broncos did even last year, surpassing everybody's expectations. But to really knock off the Chiefs in the AFC West, you got to probably set your sights on 13 as that kind of target win total.
And Schlereth also said that he could see the Broncos winning a playoff game or 2 or 3 if they get to the dance, which we assume they will. But like you said, it's not just beating Kansas City head-to-head. What they do so well is dispatch the contenders in the AFC, the Buffaloes, the Baltimores, the Cincinnatis. Kansas City has had their numbers for years now for the most part. The Broncos have to take care of business starting in the West without Kansas City. How about the Chargers? You can't get swept by them if you want to contend for the division. So they have to take care of their business outside of Kansas City. And then, like you said, that Christmas night matchup could be for all the marbles in the West.
By the way, this is not me saying that I have my doubts. I think the Chiefs are on a slight decline. Again, it's a matter of degrees. I'm not saying they're going to go from first to worst or anything like that, but something about failing. Look, the three-peat never been done. They got really close in that they got to the final game in terms of closing the three-peat and couldn't get it done. They got blown up. But it's one thing to kind of not be as good. Other teams around you starting to kind of get your number a little bit. But when those teams in your division are improving with such alacrity, Zach, as the Broncos and Chargers are, and I'll even say the Raiders on paper. Don't know yet. We'll see how that comes out in the wash. But Pete Carroll, he's not a loser. He'll figure that thing out. Geno Smith, we all kind of laugh and dismiss him, but last 2 times the Broncos faced him, he beat him with relative ease. So the AFC West has gotten better. That doesn't bode well for the Chiefs, but it's equally difficult on the Broncos, Zach. So it really will be interesting to see how it shakes out. But the Broncos, remember, the over-under this year by Vegas set at 9.5 wins. I'm taking the over on that, but I'd be lying to you if I were to sit here and tell you I know the Broncos are going to dethrone the Chiefs. I know they're going to win a playoff game. I hope, and I think the pieces are there, but it's still a very young team. So there's still a lot of experience, shared war history that, say, a team like the Chiefs has that you saw serve them so well last year, Zach, in all those one-score victories, right, including against the Broncos, that the Broncos still need to kind of forge together.
That's why we were asked about the games we're most looking forward to. I think it was last night's podcast, Chad. I mentioned the Eagles contest against Denver, if only as a measuring stick to see where Bo Nix is in year 2, where the Broncos are in terms of how much are they contenders going up against the reigning world champs. So we'll know in the early part of the season where they stack up.
Kona says the Xmas game is a complete setup for KC. The refs are going to make sure KC at home gets the win. The Broncos will win the same number of beers I will be drinking tonight. 14. Dang, dude, you must not have to work tomorrow, big dog. Good for you, pal. We'll see. We'll see how that shakes out. Question about Estime. Why do we think from Richard? Why do we think Dobbins is better than Estime? I mean, look, it's not so much that he's better. It's just that he
Prove.
checks a couple of the boxes that, that Estime can't quite yet in his career. As players, take away experience. As players, Zach, it's the pass blocking thing. And I just think Dobbins is already just a more proven runner in the league. But Scott's bringing it up here in the chat. I mean, this is a fair point. The last we saw of Estime, he was a healthy scratch on a playoff team that needed a running threat on the road in as hostile territory as it gets in Buffalo.
The simple answer is the word you just hit on there, proven. One back is proven in J.K. Dobbins. He had almost 1,000 yards in an injury-shortened season with the Chargers last season. So he's a good running back. He's just never healthy, but he's proven. He's experienced. He's been through the rigors of the NFL longer than Estime. That's basically it.
Hey, shout out to another example, a shining example of how Broncos country is not a geographic location. It's a state of being. Glenn is down in Oz. So for him, it's morning. In the Rockies, it's dinner time. For him, it's Tuesday morning, and he's saying, I'm not worried about beating the Chiefs. We have their number. We have to beat the Raiders, Chargers, Bengals, take that crown. What a better day to cement it than Christmas with a bag full of sacks in Arrowhead 13-4 hashtag Merry Sackmas. I love it, dude. And that's essentially my point, Zach, is that I agree. Sean Payton, with severely less accomplished rosters, has proven to have a competitive team against the Chiefs. A lot of those teams, Zach, pre-Payton. So the 2016 up until 2023 teams, yeah, there were some close ones. There's those one or two that we're always going to remember as the close but no cigar games against the Chiefs, including that Case Keenum sailing that one pass over DT's head that would have won the game. But Sean Payton, he actually got it done. He got it done with gusto in 2023 with Russ, dude. Almost got it done in their house. I'm not worried about head-to-head so much. It's more about how you're going to perform against your common opponents, how you're going to perform just generally with your season, because that's going to be ultimately the rub by the time you get to Christmas.
They were competitive against Kansas City, but they were not competitive against Baltimore. They were not competitive against Buffalo. They were not competitive on defense in the second Chargers game or the Bengals game the following week or the week before, whatever it was. So that's the thing here. That Christmas game in Kansas City won't matter if the Broncos don't take care of business against the Chargers, the Raiders, the Bengals, the other AFC threats leading up to that contest.
Exactly. Eric, what's up, dude? Eric Flynn throwing down some stars for your boys here tonight on Facebook. Thank you, brother. Great to see you. Hope you're doing well. Tone. No, I mean if it's
TVT.
There you go. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to catch you guys live. I'm thinking about going to the Christmas game. Hey, dude, that'd be dope. That'd be a fun one. This is the guy, TVT, Zach, who's like always asking us questions about that undrafted rookie rush linebacker, Walker. Yeah. He keeps asking about Walker, and it's like, dude, we don't know anything. We won't know anything about him till training camp. We'll know a lot in training camp. Hold down the fort. Hang tight till then, but we'll get our answers. We also have the Ronk checking in with us tonight. What's up, buddy? Great to see you. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. Broncos. Yeah, there you go, Kona. Okay, cool. All right, Zach, I think as far as what so far has been, there it is. There's the Ronk's initial comment. What is on the mind of Broncos country in the chat so far, I think we've touched on. So I want to pick your brain on a couple things. First of all, your story today, Evan Ingram, who wore first 88 with the Giants, then 17 with the Jaguars. He picked the jersey number 1. That's old news. We all know that. But Zach, you wrote about what he had to say about why he chose the number 1. It's just a little fun kind of topic. Break it down.
Yeah, fans love hearing about jersey numbers. So here it is. He had number 1 in high school. He had that number for 3 years. And then he had 17 in college, and he had 17 in Jacksonville. So it's a little bit of a throwback to the past, kind of an emotional investment for Evan Ingram. But I like the the quote that he had in describing the history of the jersey number, and he tied it into his tenure with the Broncos now, where I'm at in my career, how much I've learned, the talent I've worked for, the experiences I have to be able to bring that here and wear that jersey number again. I don't take it lightly. So this is a guy, Chad, who was a two-time Pro Bowler. He signed a $23 million contract. He could act like a big shot. He has total job security, but he's come in with total humility and total appreciation for how the Broncos are doing business in Denver. You mentioned yesterday he read the cleaner. He's embracing the Joker role. I am really happy with the addition of Evan Ingram so far.
I'm just stoked at how kind of cerebral he is. I didn't really know much about him as an individual, other than obviously what he's achieved in the league and knowing how good he is when he's healthy. But yeah, definitely seems to be well read. Having read that Relentless book that talks about being a cleaner, recognized that when he brought it up. GLP. We're gonna get to the starting lineup thing. We're gonna get to that. That's what we titled tonight's episode around here just shortly. GLP, what's up, bro?
Thank you, Gary.
Great to see you. Hope you're managing to stay cool in your neck of the woods. Literally. Figuratively, you're always cool. We know this. Like, you walk around every day, you get out of bed, you're cool. We know that. But he says, GLP, high priests. This is a side note that I think is more important than some may think. But Greg Penner, CEO and co-owner, has said he will not consider a repeat as a success. In other words, just getting to the playoffs and then losing. So that is a pressure on Sean Payton that hasn't been talked about. Go Broncos. So, Zach, we have long known and knew, I mean, we lived it for all those decades, the high level of expectation that the late Pat Bowlen had as the owner of the Denver Broncos. It was Super Bowl or bust. And it sounds like the Walton Penners have adopted a similar standard of expectation. Last year, I think privately, you'd probably hear from all those guys, the Walton Penners, even Sean Payton in his heart of hearts, George Payton. It was a pleasant surprise to win 10 games with a rookie quarterback and make the playoffs. What they achieved last year on paper was what they sketched out as their objective, I'm sure, for 2025. But being that they microwaved that, got there in year one with Bo, now you got to build on it, Zach.
As you know, the expectation should be that they have to continue rising. And I love what the Penner Walton ownership group has done in Denver for the community, for the team, for everyone, the fans. But let's not pretend it's been totally altruistic either. This is a multi-billion-dollar investment for the Walton Penner ownership group. And if you have a multi-billion-dollar investment, you want that investment to pay dividends. And that's not going to happen if they stagnate. That's true that they set the bar higher, but there's no reason why they can't eclipse that bar now, Chad. Second year with Bo Nix, another year with Sean Payton. The roster, offense and defense, has gotten remarkably better since Buffalo. So that should be the expectation. And I guarantee you, Gary, that Sean's putting the same pressure on his shoulders as well.
Plus, just those 18 games that Bo started, that experience alone is a force multiplier by itself. And you can see in Bo, just watching him at OTAs, how he didn't hit this offseason resting on his laurels, kind of mail it in, wake me up when it's time to report for voluntary minicamp. You could tell that, we know he talked about this, Zach. He took a little time off, recharged the old batteries at the end of the season, but you could see in how well he's playing and just how good he looks that he's worked hard this offseason to be able to translate all of that experience, all the epiphanies. Imagine, if you're a rookie quarterback starting 18 games, year one, dude, imagine you're like getting an epiphany a minute. And, every little thing you're going, oh, that's how that sausage gets made. I'll remember that for the next rep or the next game or whatever. All that's going to serve him well. Plus, the guys out there who talk about in the national media, the bloviations and anxious wringing of hands about the dreaded sophomore slump. All of the common denominators, Zach, that mark guys who typically take a step back, even CJ Stroud, in his case, he had a couple of the markers, though not all of them. All those common denominators, none of them exist in the situation with Bo Nix. He's got the exact same system, same head coach, same position coach, same play caller, because his head coach is his play caller. He's got this all 5 starters returning on the offensive line. He's got the exact same supporting cast that he had last year, minus Javonte Williams. That guy was replaced with what we all believe is an upgrade in RJ Harvey, and then an additional upgrade in the form of Evan Ingram. There is nothing to suggest at all that Bo Nix is one of those candidates right for a step back. So I expect him to do the exact opposite. And it's not going to be easy because Zach, even last year as a rookie, led the league as a rookie in passing touchdowns, but he still finished 5th in total passing touchdowns in the NFL. My point being, it's not going to be easy to exceed 29 touchdowns. It's not going to be easy to exceed just shy of 3,800 passing yards like he had last year. But I think the Broncos put the pieces around him to get it done.
There's a lot to be said, too, about how those stats translate. So if he's throwing for 200 yards and a touchdown a game, but the Broncos win 13, 14 games, look at Josh Allen, Chad, for example. Lamar Jackson had way better numbers than Josh Allen did, but the voters felt that Allen was more effective despite the lower numbers, and that's why he got MVP. But I'd like to harken back really quickly to what Mike McGlinchey said, and very succinctly, this is Bo Nix's team now. Done. Point blank, period.
Yep. Well said, Gary. Thank you, buddy, for bringing that up. An interesting angle to explore, no doubt. Okay, guys, following free agency, let me blow this up a little bit. And right on the doorstep of when they were going to start doing rookie minicamp and then start reporting for the weightlifting and phase 1 of the OTAs, I released a projection of a starting lineup on both sides of the ball for the Broncos. And it's pretty easy to do that this year, Zach, because the Broncos had one of the lowest turnover percentages and roster turnover percentages in the NFL. They're returning 86% of the same roster they had last year as a 10-win playoff team. And that's really cool. But for a team that's returning 86% of its roster year over year, it is noteworthy that they have 5 new faces projected in the starting lineup. Why are we talking starting lineup projections today? Well, Eric wrote it up, but Pro Football Focus put out their starting lineup projections for all 32. And Zach, I just want your thoughts on this.
Yep.
This is how Pro Football Focus laid it out. So on offense, and you'll notice that they put 2 running backs, so 12 players as the starting unit. They didn't really explain it that well, but here's how it shook out. Of course, Bo Nix, the 2 backs, RJ Harvey, Audric Estime, receivers being Cortland Sutton, Devon Vele, Marvin Mims Jr., tight end being Evan Ingram, and then the same offensive line, Bowles, Powers, Wattenberg, Miners, McGlinchey. So first things first, Zach, on this unit, you got 1, 2 new faces. How are you feeling about the projected starting lineup?
As long as we got an upgrade in the backfield, upgraded tight end, what the Broncos set out to do, prioritize, they're in better shape. Like I said, I love the addition of Evan Ingram. And, you mentioned that he should be an upgrade. We assume RJ Harvey's an upgrade over Javonte. How could he not be, Chad? How could he not be better than what the Broncos had last season? So looks good to me.
3 yards in a cloud of dust after Pookie runs straight into Miner's rear end or Powers. Those days are in the rear view. Even Estime's vision is much better than Javonte Williams. But RJ Harvey, man, I'm as excited about Evan Ingram as anybody. I think, what really geeked me out was I think it was maybe the owners' meetings. Might have been combine, but I think it was the owners' meetings when Sean Payton started talking about, it was owners' meetings because it was after Ingram was signed. But the completing the interior passing triangle, and he kind of got a little bit nerdy about what that means for Bo Nix. And that got me even more excited for Evan Ingram. But in the final analysis, when we look back on 2025 as a season, I think the guy who probably ends up having the single biggest impact on the offense, not named Bo Nix, is this guy right here, RJ Harvey.
Yep. Yeah, and what they don't even list there, Chad, is the Broncos also gave Bo Nix a Tim Patrick clone with Pat Bryant, third-round rookie receiver. So you add in that to the fold, everything we've talked about. This offense is experienced in certain areas and young in the important areas, and looks good from top to bottom, in my opinion.
Let's have a look at the defense as projected by PFF, and it matches what we at MHH predicted about a month ago. So on the D line, you got John Franklin Myers, Zach Allen, DJ Jones. Outside linebacker, Nick Benito, All Pro, Jonathan Cooper. Inside linebacker, Dre Greenlaw. There's the first new face. And Alex Singleton. Cornerback, Pat Surtain, Riley Moss, the rookie first round pick, Zadeh Barron. And then safety tandem, Brandon Jones, Talanoa Hufanga. So on this unit, Zach, I mentioned 5 new faces. There's 1, 2, 3 of them are on defense. How you feeling about this defense? I mean, who was it? Sam Bam talking about it earlier about projecting it as potentially the number 1 defense in fantasy football. Looks good on paper, baby, but the game ain't played on paper, as we know.
Right. It's like show me a weakness here. I guess right in the middle with Singleton, or maybe the concern with Greenlaw's injury, but that's a stacked defense if I ever saw one. And I'll tell you what I'm most excited about is that safety duo, Chad. If Hufanga, whatever, he stays healthy, he has that mindset where he's committing free violence on the field in tandem with Brandon Jones, who was remarkable in year 1 with the Broncos. It's going to be no fly zone 2.0 in my opinion.
I can't wait to see how that safety tandem plays out, dude, because, man, Brandon Jones delivered, and I was not expecting it. I'll be honest with you. And it's perhaps a raising of all ships thing. The unit was so good. That was the tide that floated a few boats, perhaps, Brandon Jones being one of them. But I don't think so. I think Brandon Jones delivering a Pro Bowl alternate caliber first year as a Bronco, he earned that. He played really well, got his fingers on quite a few takeaways, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he and Hufanga what kind of chemistry they can create.
And then you throw in Zadeh Barron, who probably shouldn't have been there in the first round for Denver. Chad's an elite blue chip defensive prospect who Sean Payton said he can play inside, he can play outside. He's not really putting a positional cap, though. I think he ruled out safety, like in the case of Malcolm Jenkins.
Yep.
So again, I mean, maybe Singleton's your weakest link, but when he is, and he's a good 2-down player, VJ has no excuses not to field a top 3 unit. None.
And even I agree with you. Like if you put a gun to my head and said, find the hole in the boat, because as my dad has taught me, if you look, this is about like maintaining a positive mindset, not negative. Like if you look for the hole in the boat long enough, this can apply to relationships, anything. If you look for the hole in the boat long enough, you're going to find it. And so if I'm forced to find the hole in this particular boat, yes, I concur, Zach. Might be Singleton, might be DJ Jones. Those are the 2 potential holes in the boat. But if you remove injury as a big concern, it's part of the game. We know it. Broncos have a great track record since Sean Payton arrived in avoiding the major injuries. The one thing I like about these 2 projected starting inside linebackers is that Drake Greenlaw kind of offsets the vulnerability of Singleton in coverage. And they're both animals when it comes to sideline, chasing the ball, run fits, all that stuff. So what I'm getting at is we just need a little bit of luck by way of the injury bug. And this defense is sky's the limit, dude.
They're very complementary players. And that's a really good point, Chad, because Greenlaw is sideline to sideline. Singleton's a demon in run support. And that's the issue I had when it was Singleton and Jewell starting an inside linebacker. If one is okay, but when both are so limited, both are 2 down, they don't do well in coverage, that was the issue. Fortunately, Dre Greenlaw solves that problem.
All right, we go back to the chat. Phil McLaughlin checking in. Good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. Great to see you, Phil. Thank you, pal. Says, I was pleased to read that the Packers released cornerback Jair Alexander. Should help Bo find an open receiver. That's right, because we go back to the schedule. When do they face the Packers? Are week 15, Zach. So that does make life a little easier. I don't know the story. I didn't investigate it today on why they moved on from him, but he's out there, Zach.
Yeah, I'll echo what the Ronk said, though. He's going to want a ton of money. He's going to want a starting opportunity. And I don't know, after the Broncos drafted Barron and having the defensive player of the year already in PS2, if they can afford him that opportunity. So I'll say, like I usually do, Phil, let's put that money toward Zach Allen or Benito or Cortland Sutton and lock down some of their own talent.
A 2-time second-team All-Pro, 2-time Pro Bowler in Jair Alexander, hitting the market. It'll be interesting to see where he lands, and I just hope it's not like Chargers or Chiefs. I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out. But how are you guys feeling about the starting lineups? Roy says, I like the projected lineups for sure. It's really hard to find a weakness, dude. Even on offense, a lot of young guys, obviously, but each one of them has their unique, Zach. Like if you go back to the offense here, each one that is young and still kind of relatively unproven, I'm gonna remove Bo Nix from the equation, even though I shouldn't, because 1 year does not make a complete NFL career. I mean, Devon Vele has been probably, from people I've talked to, kind of the belle of OTAs up to this point, like the guy that's drawn the most oohs and ahs and people talking about him. He just looks different. Marvin Mims, it's more about what guys like Sean Payton are saying when you talk about ascending guys. But what Payton's saying today, combined with, Zach, how he finished last year down the stretch. I mean, insane production, finished the season with back-to-back double touchdown games. One of those games was a nail biter down to the wire, and he showed up big in those critical moments. So Marvin Mims is a guy that could absolutely pop. In fact, he's the guy that I envision with the highest potentiality. That's not even a word. Highest potential to truly be that breakout guy, like becoming maybe not the new Deebo Samuel, but a guy like that who is a name known in every NFL household across the fruited plain. Evan Ingram's already proven. We don't need to talk about him. But Harvey, he's a rookie. So as a rookie, Zach, he literally is starting from square one. He has everything to prove, as all rookies do. And then Audric Estime, I mean, I don't know what to make of him quite yet. Sean Payton made it sound like 2 days, or might have been a week actually, before they brought in Dobbins for a look-see. He talked about Audric Estime being a back that requires multiple carries to get into a groove. They weren't always able to do that last year with the way their depth chart worked, but he will get those carries this year. So I'm not sure exactly what to expect, Zach, but that to me, as a young up-and-coming offense, what's it missing? I'm genuinely asking you, what could it be missing?
I mean, the hole in this boat, I guess, would be Wattenberg. But even then, Chad, he reminds me of Singleton, that he's not great in the running game, but he was a tremendous pass blocker. I think he was the fifth highest graded center in pass protection last season. So as a first year starter, lots to like about him. You can't have Pro Bowlers at every single position, but what I also like, Chad, Garrett Bowles under contract for the long term. Along some of these other players, Cortland Sutton, they're going to sign for the long term. McGlinchey's under contract. They just signed Ingram. Bo Nix, most importantly, on his rookie deal. They're on the championship window, in the championship window, with the luxury of paying Bo Nix relative pennies. So a lot to like for sure.
That's a key. You got to make hay while that rookie quarterback contract sun is shining. And I think they will. This year, I mean, they had to still be a little bit skinny this year because they carried 30 some odd million, Zach, of that total 85 million dead on Russell Wilson this year. They split it up, as we all know. Next year, they'll be pretty much free of the Russell Wilson anvil that's been tied around their neck, and still have Bo on 2 more years for sure of the rookie contract, 5th-year option or extension. We'll find out in the fullness of time, but I can't imagine how much better they could be with even that much more wiggle room. Plus, we got to see what they're going to do with these extensions. You got to keep that in mind. How are you going to keep this nucleus together? Nick Bonito, Cortland Sutton, Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers, Wattenberg. So still a lot of bridges to cross, but I look forward to that.
And if Bo gets a second contract, which we both believe he will, that would mean that he deserves a second contract, which would mean the Broncos are perennial playoff contenders, and they would have no problem cutting that check. So they've come out of the Russell Wilson debacle well. They've added a lot of talent to the team. They've balanced the budget, so to speak, and they still have, I think, at last check, over $16 million in salary cap space. So credit to George Payton in the front office.
So speaking of Wattenberg, I know it's not the sexiest podcast topic, but it is a podcast, so we will get into the weeds at times, as you know. But Luke Wattenberg, we're used to this offseason in particular. I mean, it's always been this way to a point. This year's been, honestly, I think, the worst. Pro Football Focus giving individual players and position rankings short shrift when it comes to the Broncos. But in the case of Luke Wattenberg, He checked in, Zach, as the Pro Football Focus's 14th ranked center of 2025. Eric wrote up the article for us, and his analysis was that it's actually quite a fair ranking for him. What say you?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I rail on PFF a lot, but like I mentioned, Wattenberg, his warts were in the running game. As a pass blocker, he was tremendous for a first year starter, and you can tell that Zach Strief personally worked with him one on one. But top half of the NFL in the center rankings, Chad, and after 1 year for a fifth round pick, I think he was pretty good.
So you heard me mention this, and by the way, we're sitting at 40 minutes, so we're about out of time, guys. Consider this kind of the 2-minute warning. Then we'll get into some messages here before we dip on out. But you heard me mention earlier the Hufanga interview on NFL Network, and it was interesting because we've heard him and Ingram share their impressions of Bo Nix, and not only that, but how much of a recruiting kind of beacon he was for the Broncos. But what was additionally unique about this conversation with NFL Network is that Hufanga gave his initial impressions, Zach, of playing for Sean Payton. Now, it's the early goings, but this is what he said when asked, describe what it's been like to play for Sean Payton in one word. And here's what he said, quote, so far, one word that comes to mind is just very diligent. He's very smart when it comes to, he has all the nicks and knacks and understands he's seen a lot of ball, just coming out there and just giving me little tidbits and stuff that I haven't heard in my career, and try to take that in and go out there, apply it to my game in the best way possible to help us win, close quote. So that's the new safety's impressions of Sean Payton's at.
Not to read too much into it, but it's noteworthy considering where Hufanga came from. In San Francisco, coached by Kyle Shanahan, one of the best and most meticulous, most cerebral, intelligent coaches in the league. So for Hufanga to be impressed after a few months with Sean Payton says the Broncos are in as good a hands as we thought they were.
Plus, he played under D'Amico Ryans before he became a head coach as his defensive coordinator. I'm trying to remember what's the dude's name? I can't believe I'm brain farting this. The Jets guy that just got fired at the end of the year.
Salah.
I'm trying to remember what his tenure was, but point being that Hufanga's played for some legit coaches. So that is a good point, Zach, as far as the observation. But all right, guys, we got a few messages for you. Then we're going to take one last look at the chat before we dip. Don't go anywhere.
Feel like we just started. It's almost at 43 minutes. You guys make this incredible. Another fantastic episode of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on X at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle. Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out mhhmerch.com. Get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at mile_high_huddle. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your Football Priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please, very, very important, as always, that you subscribe, you like, you share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
Yeah, tonight, I guess Todd's saying, man, this was like, I don't know, 10 minutes ago. It's like, man, the chat's dead. And look, guys, this is what we're talking about. You get this late into the season, man, of the off season, that is. And people, there's not much to talk about that hasn't already been talked about. In other words, not a lot of news happening. However, savor this week, guys, because these 3 mandatory mini camps, that's what we've got to live on till training camp comes. So we'll have a lot. Well, don't worry. We'll extract every ounce of intrigue and entertainment out of whatever happens and is said this week. But let not your heart be troubled on that front for sure. This is, Zach, where to go. What Phil said regarding the lineups real quick. Pretty sure both starting lineups show how we have improved, on paper at least. The caveat being health, always the main concern. Excellent point. I see also, Zach, some questions about Jermaine Pratt, the former Bengals linebacker. Did they release him, or is
he was cut today? Yeah.
So What are your thoughts on the Broncos perhaps bringing him in, complement the linebacker core?
I feel like he's more of a name than he could be, a plus contributor. He's a compiler. He gets a bunch of tackles, but they usually happen 3-4 yards past the line of scrimmage. A lot like Alex Singleton, and he also has some injury concerns. So let's just move forward with the inside backers they already have.
When he was coming out of, I think it was UNC, wasn't he? Wasn't he North North Carolina? Oh, North Carolina, yeah, UNC. I liked him. I was interested in him. Didn't work out for the Broncos. This was in 2019, the first year of Fangio. If you look at his production, this is just real quick. Now we're getting out of here. Solid production, relatively consistent in his availability, especially the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, honestly, his whole career, because his rookie year, Zach, he started 9 of 16 games. That was back when it was a 16-game schedule. And so he didn't miss 7 games. He just only was a starter 9 games. But from then on out, dude, 15 of 16, 15 of 15, 15 of 15, 17 of 17, 17 of 17. So very consistent and reliable in that sense. Provides you somewhere hovering right around the triple digits as a career average in terms of tackles. Last year, though, Zach, coming off a career high, 143 tackles. So it does surprise me that they cut bait with him. I'm not sure why. I'd want to get to the bottom of that if I were a team interested in him in any way, shape, or form. But he is 29. So keep that in mind. But he just turned 29. So the dreaded 30-year-old wall got a year.
If you want to cut Singleton and sign Jermaine Pratt to have him play next to Greenlaw, go ahead. But like as is, you don't need Jermaine Pratt. I would rather, Chad, if they wanted an experienced inside linebacker, your suggestion, go after CJ Mosley, who I'm pretty sure is still available.
Hey, Mike, thank you, buddy. The Ronk saying, great show tonight, Chad and Zach on the Mile High Huddle podcast. Go Bo Broncos. Thank you, brother. A shout out to all the great Super Chat superstars and supporters helping us keep the lights on tonight. I'll just go in reverse order. Hitting the Ronk, Phil McLaughlin, the GLP down in the desert, Sam Bam helping us get things rolling early, Eric Flynn, the Brace Girdle boys having us up on the big screen. Appreciate you guys being with us tonight and the support, of course. Now, listen, Zach and I on the podcast front, we are off until Thursday night. So we'll be kind of what it all means, takeaways. Thursday's the last day of mandatory minicamp, but Zach and I will be writing our fingers off the next 3 days. So be sure to check out milehighhuddle.com, bookmark it, read all the news, helps us out. Real quick here, Zach, Phil wants to know, you guys think we keep PJ Locke and Damari Mathis? My answer is Locke, pretty sure at this point he's probably sticking around. Mathis, he's one of those guys that's kind of on the bubble. If he gets... Depends on how some of the other guys look, but with Barron coming in, you have Chris Abrams-Drain last year. He's the guy that could find himself without a seat when the music stops at the end of the summer, right before the final cuts.
I usually don't advocate for players to lose their jobs, but PJ Locke's cap number, they would save over $3 million, I think, by cutting him, Chad. They don't need him. He's not a starter anymore. That's a lot to pay a number 3 safety. If he wants to restructure, Phil, the Broncos might keep him around, but he's a release candidate at his current figure. Damari Mathis, I thought, was always like a little bit of a pet project of VJ. I don't know that VJ wants to call it quits on Damari Mathis just yet, but like you said, I think the battle will be between Mathis and Chris Abrams-Drain. Our money's on CAD, but he could surprise.
There you go. Thank you, Phil. Anyway, guys, much love and respect. Thanks to each and every one of you for being with us tonight. Can't wait to see you on Thursday.
Have a great rest of your Monday, a great start to your week. We'll see you Thursday night. Take care, and as always, go Broncos.